For 5 years I built the law firm's entire client base. No vacations, no sick days, just 70-hour weeks. On the day the CEO's son took over, he replaced me with his girlfriend. Just business, he laughed. Big mistake. I shook his hand and walked out. Then watched his empire crumble. I end 30 days, all 46 clients gone. But the real panic started when. For 5 years, I built the firm's entire client base, 46 companies who trusted me with their biggest risks and their most fragile secrets. No vacations, no sick days. 70-hour weeks that blurred into each other. I was always the one answering the midnight calls, the one who could take chaos and put it back into order. My life was the firm. My name wasn't on the door, but without me, the doors would have shut long ago. On the day the CEO's son took over, he replaced me with his girlfriend. It's just business, he laughed, extending a hand I didn't want to shake. I forced myself to take it, then walked out without saying a word. He thought he had won. He had no idea what he just set in motion. His name was Brandon Harland, 30 years old. The kind of confidence you inherit, not the kind you earn. Glossy hair, expensive shoes, and the smirk of someone who had never had to finish what he started. He had spent the last few years advising startups, which in practice meant traveling, writing empty blog posts, and calling it thought leadership. The moment his father retired, the title executive director was handed to him like a birthday present. He redecorated almost instantly. The framed degrees and legal texts that once lined the shelves were packed away. In their place, a putting green and a neon sign that glowed over his desk: move fast. Break molds. Cultural momentum, he told me when he called me in. We're rewarding people who bring energy. Is there an issue with the Morrison procurement deal? I asked, calm as always. Or with the Alliage refinancing? Both had taken months of my time, and they were days from closing. It's not about details. He made a broad gesture toward the skyline. We need vibes. That was his word. Vibes. Then came the folder. A non-compete that wasn't worth the paper it was printed on. An NDA filled with vague threats and 3 months severance if I didn't make trouble. Beside him sat Maya, his girlfriend, who had been hired as a paralegal only a few weeks earlier. She smiled at me as if she'd just won a prize. I'll manage Tessa's transitions, she said. You can't manage what you don't understand, I replied, my voice even. And you can't sign anything that requires a license. That's no longer your concern, Brandon said. He leaned back, satisfied, like this was just another item on his to-do list. Then he added a word that still stung. You're competent. Nobody's saying you're not competent. Competent. The way he said it, it sounded like worthless. I signed what I could sign, refused what I knew was unenforceable, left my badge on his desk, packed my mug in a cardboard box, and walked out of the building with my head high, past the reflection of that ridiculous neon sign. At home, I set the banker's box on my dining table and opened my laptop. There were no dramatic speeches, no immediate revenge, just a quiet inventory. Lawyers are trained to separate facts from noise, and I was still a lawyer. The firm owned the files, the letterhead, the building, the marble lobby that impressed visitors. But I owned the frameworks I had built on my own time, the templates, the checklists, the training modules that turned chaos into order. I owned my knowledge, and most importantly, I owned the relationships. 46 clients whose loyalty had been earned through years of late nights, steady guidance, and trust. Trust doesn't belong to a firm. It belongs to the person who shows up when no one else will. I opened my personal contact list. 46 names, each more than a client. People who had let me into their lives, who had texted me pictures of newborns and anniversaries, who had whispered fears they couldn't share with their boards. I drafted one sentence on LinkedIn: effective today, I will be consulting independently on contract risk and operational compliance. No mention of the firm, no drama, just a statement of fact. Then I pressed publish. Not long after, my phone buzzed. Tessa, just saw your update. Coffee tomorrow? Same cafe? Helena Cho, CFO of one of my earliest clients. I stared at the screen for a long moment. The NDA didn't forbid coffee. It didn't forbid friendship. And Helena had never been someone who spoke casually. I typed back, as friends always. That night, my dining room became a war room. I laid out my notes, printed the frameworks I had created, opened the files I'd organized in my personal cloud. No client data, nothing proprietary, just the systems that made me good at my job. At 9:21, another message lit my phone. Tessa, I don't know if you can respond, but the new team just asked me what material adverse change means in our lender agreement. We close Friday. I feel sick. The words hit me like a punch. That clause had nearly cost Helena her financing once before. I had pulled her company back from disaster by making sure it was documented properly. Now she was back at the edge with someone who didn't even know the definition. I typed slowly, carefully. I can't discuss your deal, but I can meet you as a friend and talk about general concepts. Tomorrow, 7 a.m., she replied. Old cafe, same table. And Tessa, it's not just business when people forget why they're in business. When I put my phone down, the room was quiet. I rinsed my mug, set it beside the sink, and thought about those words. In the weeks that followed, people would say the firm collapsed in 30 days. That 46 clients left overnight. But in that moment, standing in my kitchen, I wasn't thinking about their empire. I was thinking about trust, the kind you can't buy, the kind you can't fake, the kind Brandon had never even noticed until it was already gone. And tomorrow at 7 a.m., I was about to be reminded that trust is stronger than marble lobbies or neon signs. The cafe was nearly empty when I walked in the next morning. Same cracked leather booths, same smell of burnt espresso, same elderly barista who'd been there since my first year at the firm. It was the place I'd gone whenever I needed to think, when cases were falling apart or negotiations dragged into the night. Now it was where I was about to sit across from Helena Cho, CFO of Cowell Manufacturing, one of my longest-standing clients. She was already at the back table, a half-drunk cappuccino in front of her, phone face down. When she saw me, she stood, and for a moment, I thought she might hug me. Instead, she clasped both my hands. "Tessa, what the hell happened?" I slid into the booth across from her. "It's complicated," I said carefully. "Mostly nepotism, a little arrogance, and a lot of poor judgment." Her mouth tightened. "Brandon." I didn't confirm or deny. "You know I can't talk about firm business. I sign things. But I can say this, I'm no longer there, and I'm exploring independent work." She leaned back, eyes sharp. "Independent consulting," I clarified. "Contract risk, compliance frameworks, negotiation prep. My own systems, my own intellectual property. Not representing anyone directly. For now." Helena exhaled like she'd been holding her breath all night. "Good, because yesterday the new team asked me to define material adverse change in writing. They're handling our refinancing, Tessa. $120 million on the line, and they don't know the most basic clause." I felt my stomach tighten. I remembered the panic 2 years earlier when Cowell's lenders tried to pull financing after a minor dip in quarterly earnings. I had spent 3 straight days negotiating carve-outs and thresholds that saved their credit line. Without those terms, the company might not even exist today. "I can't comment on your deal," I said slowly. "But I can tell you what the clause means in general. It's about risk, about lenders protecting themselves if something goes catastrophically wrong. It has to be negotiated carefully, or it becomes a trap." Helena pressed her palms together. "That's exactly what I told them. And do you know what they said? Don't worry, we'll Google it." The barista set down 2 fresh coffees without being asked. I